So, these are going to be the most impactful cards, in my opinion, for the next expansion. So if you don't want to break the bank, but you have enough dust for a couple of legendaries or epics, I would suggest crafting the ones on this list. I didn't include commons or rares because they are a lot less of an investment. So it's easier to drop, say, 100 dust for a rare that's important than 1600 for a legendary, if that makes sense. And then the next thing is, this isn't in a particular order. This is just in the order of which they were released. Like, Mankrik was released before, all the way over here, Cutterbutter, right? Scabbs Cutterbutter. That's the order. This isn't in particular order. You just need to pick the ones that best suit you for whatever deck you're trying to play, whatever class you're trying to play, and all that. So, without further ado, let's just jump into it. We have Mankrik. Mankrik is a really solidly statted card. It is a 3-mana 3/4 neutral legendary, so it'll be used in a lot of different decks. And I think that this is a card we actually get for free, but just in case we don't, craft it. It'll be good. It'll be good in pretty much every single deck that you could play. It'll be at least decent in aggro because the battle cry gives you a 3/10 that goes face. I don't think it'll be as good in aggro as in a mid-range or maybe even a control deck for some extra value in the early game, because they're just other more aggressive cards. They get you more value in the early game, but it could be decent in aggro. It'll be good in mid-range for sure, good in control for the extra value, and the stats as a 3-mana 3/4 make it pretty sticky on turn 3. So overall, this card is probably one of the best cards, and the fact that it's neutral is really nice. You could just throw it into a lot of decks if you have an extra slot open. Next is Kazakus. Kazakus is an interesting card because his battle cry does limit you a little bit. The fact that you can't run 4-cost cards, other than this one obviously, is somewhat problematic for a couple of classes. Like, I don't think Priest will be able to run this card at all. However, I do think that maybe Warlock can. I don't think Warlock really got that many cards with this recent expansion, other than one legendary. The rest of the cards are bad, like just terrible. But it doesn't have to take out that much in general. Like, you lose Cascading Disaster, which will kind of suck. Actually, it sucks quite a bit, but you replace it with Kazakus, which gives you some tempo, and if you play a control Warlock with different control spells, this will be fine. Then you play this 4-mana card, follow it with a 5-mana 5/5, maybe like Divine Shield, draw a card, or whatever you choose to put on it. Or you can make a 10/10 and make your own giant late game bomb card. Ultimately, this card is just going to be really, really flexible, really, really good, and the battle cry or the effect is a little bit problematic, but overall, I think it'll be a great card, especially because it's neutral and you can run it in anything if you want to build a deck around it. Next, you have Mordresh. This card I was a little bit skeptical of, but considering the meta looks like it'll be a little bit slower, or at least a lot slower than the meta we have right now, based on the cards that were released, and the fact that Hero Power Mage got a lot of support, I actually think that this card will do really, really well. It is a little bit lower than some of the other cards on this list because it is a very niche card. Like, you have to play Hero Power Mage in order to get this card to work, but it will be good in that deck, right? So it's a bit of a trade-off, right? If you want to play this deck, this is a must craft, but if you don't want to play this deck or you don't play Mage, you can pass on this one. But I do think that it has a really good opportunity to be good and an insane battle cry. It just basically pyroblasts the entire board. It's nuts. Next, we have Tamsin. This is the one Warlock card I was saying is actually decent. When you cast a Shadow spell that costs 1 or more, add a copy to your hand that costs 0. Basically, you could play this a little bit later into the game and then just combo off. Or you could play it relatively early or in the mid game and just get a little bit of extra value to keep yourself alive into maybe a sticky situation. The stats are pretty bad. A 3-mana 1/3 is pretty doo-doo. So you're not going to play this for tempo pretty much ever, but I will say that this card has some really cool combo potential. I can already see that this will be like a focus of combo decks, right? You play Tamsin with a really important Shadow spell, right? And then later on, if you get the other combo pieces, you can play the combo pieces and then that Shadow spell for free because it stays free in your hand the entire time. Honestly, I just think this card has a lot of like unique things about it. It'll either create some combos or some get out of jail free cards where you could just double activate every spell you play that turn. And overall, I think it'll be quite strong. Next, we have Cararel. Honestly, or Cararel, this is insane. Like a 4-mana 4/3 rush Divine Shield. Whenever this attacks, reduce the cost of holy spells in your hand by 1. Let's see here. It has rush, so it's basically a 4-mana 4/3 instantly reduce all of the costs of your holy spells in hand by 1. Probably at least, like, guaranteed at least 1. Maybe 2. I don't think it'll ever really get to 3. But, like, the expected value, which is, like, how many times you think it'll activate times the probability of that activation. So let's say, like, 80% of the time it'll give you only 1, but, like, 20% of the time it'll get you 2. The average expected value of this card is probably about 1.25 or 1.2 reduced cost in your spells or holy spells in your hand. So overall, this card's good. And the stats are alone good. Like, if this were just a normal common card, a 4-mana 4/3 Rush Divine Shield, that'd be good. And the fact that it reduces cards in hand is even better. Like, even if you only have 1 in your hand, this is essentially like a 3-mana 4/3 Rush Divine Shield because it reduces the cost of mana. This is just a really, really efficient card. I would highly recommend crafting it if you want to play Paladin. It'll work really good in probably Libram Paladin, assuming it combos well with that stuff. And yeah, I think this card looks absolutely nuts. This is probably one of the higher ones on my list. It's definitely going to go in a lot of my Paladin decks as long as I run holy spells. So yeah, this is a very good one. Varden. Freeze all enemy minions. If they're already frozen, deal 4 damage to them instead. So Freeze Mage did lose some stuff, right? Freeze Mage definitely lost a couple of good cards. Like Blizzard and Frost Nova, it's losing Ray of Frost. I think it's losing like Icicle or whatever. It's losing a lot of stuff. But if you actually just look at the value of this card, it is... So Frost Nova's a 3-cost card, right? It's going to be gone, but let's just use it as our reference point. So it's a 3-mana Frost Nova, which is a pretty good efficient card. For 1 extra mana, you get a 3/3 stat line, the same effect, and the ability to potentially do damage to minions if they're already frozen. And so it's a better Frost Nova, which is already just a 3-mana card, and then 1 mana more for a 3/3 stat line. This card is actually really, really good. For sure, it will get you out of a lot of sticky situations. And I think this card's fantastic. I think this card is a much better craft than Mordresh, because this is a very niche card that does really, really, really well in a specific deck. I think that Varden is just going to do well in like every single mage deck. It's just so good. Next we have Guff. This one is more just a card I'm throwing out there because after you cast a nature spell, give another friendly minion +2/+2. The fact that it's 3 mana means it's pretty cheap. It's 4 health, so it's a little bit sticky, or at least stickier than some other 3-drops, like 3 mana 3/3s or whatever. So it survives some removal, which is nice. And if you're playing like a token druid, and you have a Gibberling out there, and you play Guff, let's just say it's turn like 6 or 7. Gibberling, Guff, into Innervate, Nature Studies, another nature spell, into another nature spell, and next thing you know, you generated like 4 Gibberlings, gave a ton of minions +2/+2, not to mention the cards that you cast to trigger the abilities, and that's going to be your like turn 6 or 7 play if they wiped your board previously. Like this is going to be a really, really, really good card. But it's only going to be really good in token, in my opinion. I think it'll be worse in the other decks, so it's a little bit more of a niche card. Not as niche as, again, Mordresh, but definitely a fairly niche card, but will make or break token druid at a certain point. Xyrella. 4 mana 4/4, and this is why I said that Kazakus probably wouldn't do well in some decks, like Priest, because Battlecry, if you restored health this turn, deal that much damage to all enemy minions. So essentially, for 5 mana, let's just say 5 mana, you renew your face, and then you play Xyrella, and then you just destroy the board. You do 3 damage to everything for a 4/4 with the 4/4 body, and you restored health. You generated a spell, or a free spell. There's a free renew, well, not renew, but there's a free heal spell that heals you for 5, or heals both players for 5. Let's just say it heals both of you for the total 5 HP. It doesn't even say heal or restore to yourself. Like, if you're at full health, you can technically heal the opponent to get damage out of this. Fun fact. Then, boom, you drop this. Insane damage. You can do like 10 plus damage with this card, or Circle of Healing, or whatever. And it's only to enemy minions. So if you heal up your minions to get the damage, it's not like you're going to be followed up by losing your own minions. It's just a really, really good card. Next we have Scabbs Cutterbutter. It's just a high value card, like a combo that gets you 6 extra mana and value. Is just good. Like, this is what you want generally for Rogue. Do I think it's insane? No, I think there are already some other better Rogue cards, but this will definitely make an already strong Rogue even better. I think it's a little bit slow if you want to play like an aggro Rogue, but more of a tempo mid-rangey Rogue that focuses more on combos. I think this will work really, 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 really well in. So, overall, this card is decent, and I would craft it if you want to play Rogue. At least as long as it's not aggro. I think it'll be kind of bad in aggro, like I said, so keep that in mind. Next, we have Mor'shan Elite. It is a taunt battle cry. If your hero attacked this turn, summon a copy of this minion. So, first of all, there are taunt buffs in Warrior, and there are hand buffs in Warrior. Second, turn 4, Sword Eater. Turn 5, hit, play Mor'shan Elite. Over those 2 turns, you got a 2/5 taunt, 2 4/4 taunts, and a 3/2 weapon. So not even including the weapon, you get 10-13 stats on the board over the course of 2 turns. Split up amongst 3 different bodies, so it's a little bit harder to get rid of if they have single target removal. 4 attack on the Mor'shan Elites, which is good against, say, like Priest or something. And the 4 health means it gets around all of the 3 damage removal. And you can pump this card up so you could theoretically get even more value out of it. This is a really, really, really strong card. If it didn't have taunt, it would be a lot worse, actually. But the fact that it has taunt means that it also does well into aggro, because it's not even just a tempo play, it's a survival play. The opponent now has to get over 2 taunt minions, and if they're going aggro or tempo, it's very hard to get over this stuff. I really think that this is one of the best cards, and it literally could have been a legendary. Like, I could have seen this card being a legendary and been like, that's pretty good, yeah. And the fact that it's an epic, which means you can have 2 in the deck, really good for your tempo. Apparently that one broke. The next one is a Rancor. Oh, well, I know what the next one is, by the way. Shoot, I'm sorry this wasn't as prepared. But if we go to the epic, the next one is this card right here, the Primordial Protector. I undersold this card at first because it specifically says draw your highest cost spell. So I compared it to Spiteful Summoner, which revealed a spell from your deck and summon a minion of that cost. But that was limited because you had to play only 1 expensive spell. This one automatically draws your most expensive one. So you can actually have just a normal deck with like maybe 1 or 2 high cost spells. Like in Druid, you have Survival of the Fittest in your deck, obviously. You just fit this into your deck to make up for some of the cards that you lost. And then bada bing, bada boom, you automatically draw your Survival of the Fittest on turn 8. You innervate it out turn 9. You can drop Clowns, not to mention the value you get off of this card in general, just as a 6/6 plus another minion. This card's going to be really, really good in control decks that have some high cost spells, like the Puzzle Box as well for Mage will be absolutely bonkers. Overall, this looks like a very, very solid card in my opinion. And last one is Rancor. This one is a little bit niche, and this is only if you see a lot of aggro decks. But if you see a lot of aggro decks in the meta, this is going to be absolutely busted, right? Like, it's basically Holy Nova or Consecrate. Well, not Consecrate because it doesn't do damage to the face, but it does damage to all minions. It's basically Holy Nova, but you also gain armor out of it. And in most situations, you will use this card, right? You will use this card when you don't have that many minions. Or, last thing, since it only does 2 damage, if you're playing a later game Warrior deck, you can use it to trigger a bunch of frenzies all at one time. So this has a lot of different uses: early game removal, late game to trigger some frenzies into Control Warrior deck, so it's not even like a dead draw late game if you're playing this card. It's just a really, really good card, and it shuts down aggro so hard. Like, I would try it. I would definitely craft it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Love making these kind of videos for you where I talk about cards and tier lists. If there's anything else you want me to talk about, please let me know. I would be more than happy to have these discussions with you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.